This is Danny Gould with the Selling Silicon Valley Group. Welcome everyone to another Silicon Valley Market Snapshot for the second week here in January of 2020. Happy New Year, everyone. It's going to be an amazing year, not just for Silicon Valley real estate. I'm sure it will be a great year for real estate, but for you and for everyone's lives. I just feel like 2020 is like the year, you know? 2020 was the year in a lot of the movies, right? And it's like now we're here. And it's time to celebrate it. It's time to enjoy the year. It's going to be a great year. I'm very bullish about this year, and I'm very excited for what's to come. Not just for me and for my team, but for everyone here in Silicon Valley. I'm excited. Going to be a great year. So let's get into the data for this week, everyone. Before we go into it, I just wanted to kind of preface this by saying there might be, if you've been watching these videos for any period of time, there might be some discrepancies here with what you've seen before, or you know, the trends may not be as favorable as we initially thought they might be. And it's astute to look at what's gone on in previous years, because I think a lot of the data that you're going to see today it correlates to what we've seen in years past. And we'll go into like how that works out and how that plays out and what that means for you as home buyers and home sellers here in Silicon Valley. But first, with the county stats, we have in the single family sector more actives than pending. So for 4 or 5 weeks now, we've had less inventory than demand. This flipped this last week for the single family sector. Now, the condo and townhome sector, we're still less active inventory than pendings. And so when you take the overall inventory, we are slightly higher on the pending side than we are on the active side. Just doing some like ballpark math here, you were about 250 plus 450, so what is that? My math majors out there, that's about 700 or so, and we're about 680. So you like literally like 20 to 30-ish units or so more pending than, active inventory over pending sales. However, when we look at years prior, the pendings are behaving very similarly to what we've seen in years past, and I'll explain. So when you look at this 447 number, right, and then we compare it to 402, so there's a drop off here in pendings, and typically, you know, when you think, well, you know, as we accelerate or as we go into spring, we should see more and more demand. Well, coincidentally, when you look at all the years past, 2019, 2018, and 2017, we see a drop off every year. So 612 to 584, 585 to 504, 533 to 467, and finally 447 to 402. Why is that? Why is that? And I think it makes perfect sense when you think about it. Pendings measure how much inventory right now is being put pending, right? Or how many homes there are pending at this current moment in time. Pending sales measure the last basically like 30 days or so of activity before a home gets sold, right? So what happened December 13th of this, or December 13th, 30 days ago, is we were exceptionally close to the Christmas to the Christmas holiday, right? And so for the next 2-3 weeks, we should see a continual drop off and then a ramp back up on the pending side of things. So as long as the inventory stays suppressed, I expect the script to flip again. Now, it's worth pointing out, however, that on the condo and townhome side, we have an increase, right, in actives, and an increase in pendings. Last year on the condo and townhome side, we had a decrease in pendings. Right here in 2017, a decrease and a decrease. Here we've had an increase in 2020, which bucks the trend. And this could be for many reasons, but I suspect that it's for the main reason is that the appetite has finally come back on the condo and the townhome side of things, because for so long last year, buyers were not buying townhomes and condos. They had more single families to choose from. There was massive depreciation in the condo and townhome sector because there were way more condos and townhomes on the market than we were used to seeing. And so there was an oversaturation in the market for condos and townhomes, and simply not enough demand. And so when you coupled those things together, it really put downward pressure on prices. Well, in December, finally, the script flipped again, and we had less homes on the market than we had pending sales. And that eventually is going to matriculate into a stabilization, and hopefully, if you're a home seller or a condo or a townhome seller, a increase or an appreciation in home prices. How far will that increase occur, or how drastic will it be? That remains to be seen. It's too early to speak about it. You know, I'm very bullish, and I've made it very clear that I think this is going to be a great year, especially in the first 30 to 60 days for Silicon Valley homeowners in particular. But let's not kid ourselves. There is volatility right now, and everything is kind of like up in the air. But I do expect, I'm very bullish on the next 60 days or so, and how it's going to treat home sellers, because there's not a lot of homes on the market right now, everyone. There's just not a lot of homes. And you know, when you look at the active inventory on the market right now in the single family sector, we're at 459. You know, that is lower than we had in 2017, and we all know how great that year was for homeowners. That's lower than 2019, obviously not lower than 2018, but in 2018 we had such suppressed levels of inventory at the beginning of the year, and we had this great acceleration. This is about as normal, this is about as healthy of a market as we've seen in a long time. And I expect that to play itself out in a positive manner honestly for both home buyers and home sellers. And so look, what I want to go into now are the heat maps here for all three parts of Santa Clara County. And what I want you to pay attention to is, number one, that the active inventory, the active heat maps are really, they're a non-starter. Don't pay attention to them, because we're measuring it against last year's numbers, and we all know how ridiculously high last year's inventory was for the first 6 to 9 months or so when we compared it to other years. And so for a while, we're going to see these types of heat maps where it's just completely in the red, right? And that's going to be the case for a very long time. Now, when we look at pendings, however, this gives us a lot of insight. The pendings in particular is going to give us a lot of insight for both home buyers and home sellers. Number one, for home buyers, where you should be buying right now. In other words, where is the competition not going? Because that's where you want to go. And number two, for home sellers, it will measure on a week-to-week basis whether or not the appetite is there on any given week. If you've been watching these videos for any given period of time, you'll know that there's ebbs and flows in the demand for certain areas. And so when you look at this heat map and you say, well, gosh, you know, I'm in the positive 56% if you're in Saratoga. Well, by all means, like, you should act quickly, because who knows how long that demand is going to be there. Because as I've talked about in previous videos, these demand waves are not consistent. They're exactly that. They're waves. And so you'll see for 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, a surge in pendings, right? A surge in demand, and then it will drop off and it will go the other way. And then the other areas will be affected, because the buyers that were there and they were all competing against each other, well, they self-cannibalized, and you know, the losers, they go to the other areas and they're like, oh my gosh, well, I just got beat out 4 times. Let me go try in this other neighborhood. Well, enough of them do that. They all go to the same neighborhood because they all want the same things, right? So there's only a certain amount of neighborhoods that satisfy all of their needs and their wants. They go to the other one, and then that neighborhood gets saturated. They self-cannibalize, and then the losers, they go back to Saratoga. Do you see what I'm saying? And so it's this ebb and this flow of demand that eventually is going to play itself out in Silicon Valley, and I expect this to be the case for the majority of this year. And so, you know, if you're, for example, if you're seeing these heat maps here, well, let me tell you who should be highly considering putting their home on the market here very, very soon. If you're in Evergreen, do it. If you're in Almaden and Saratoga, definitely do it. If you're in downtown San Jose, you're the anomaly. Everyone wants a house down there right now because of Google. Okay, so also, look at this, guys. 0, 0, 0, -29. This is pendings. If you're a home seller, or rather, if you're a home seller, yes, let me go there first. If you're a home seller, this should motivate you to sell soon. And I'll explain why. Demand has not wavered. And what happens in the high end eventually matriculates down into the other parts of Santa Clara County. Pendings are neutral right now in the high end. And I expect the consistency of demand to play itself out here in the lower thirds of Santa Clara County, Central and South County as well. So what that means for you, if you're a home seller, is that demand staying consistent week over week and month over month is good news. It's not like it's bad news. But inventory is going to increase, right? And inventory is going to eventually, it already has in the single family sector, but it will flip flop again, but then it's going to flop back, and it's going to flip and flop and flip and flop. This is what I'm seeing. The writing's on the wall. It's not hard to kind of like look at that data table and figure things out. Condos, townhomes, single families, everything's just going to be like, it's going to be this constant, struggle for balance. And the struggle for balance is going to play itself out in a lot of home sellers making uneducated decisions because their agents are basing pricing models and offer situations, offer scenarios on things that were happening 2 to 4 weeks ago, but that's not the new normal. See, in this kind of market, pricing strategy and being in tune with the realities of the market on the day that you go on MLS is even more important, is more important now more than ever. I mean, it's vastly underrated, the importance of having this kind of information at your disposal the second that you go on the market, because that influences the type of pricing strategy that you use. If you were watching my videos a few weeks ago, I shared a post by my friend Grace. Thank you, Grace, for that information. There were 37 offers on her listing. My goodness, that's a lot of competition, right? 4 weeks from now, who knows that competition is still there? You measure that through gauging the pendings, the solds, the absorption rate, all these different factors, all these different data points to kind of like come up with the strategy that makes the most sense for you if you're a home seller. Now, if you're a home buyer, this also matters for you, because if you're a home buyer and you're looking at this data table right here, if you're in Central Santa Clara County and you're trying to make a decision, it's like if you're debating between two areas, it's going to be readily apparent to you when you go to open house which area is more competitive right now. Let me give you an example. If you're going this weekend and you're going out to open houses and you go to both Santa Clara and Sunnyvale, which one is going to have more traffic? Obviously Santa Clara, right? So you're going to have less competition. There's going to be perhaps not more negotiating power. There might be multiple offers on the property, but at the very least, instead of you'll only have to go 10 to 15K over as opposed to 50 to 100K over. Do you see the difference? There's a lot of nuances here. And I don't expect you guys to like get it all, and that's why I make myself readily available to all of you. Feel free to call me, text me, email me, any way that you want to get a hold of me. My team's always here to walk you through this and make sure that you're making the best possible decision for you and for your family at any given point in time. Because if you've been watching these videos for a long time, if nothing else is obvious to you, is that the thing that should be most obvious to you is that this market's very dynamic, right? And it's constantly in flux. And so there are certain realities that play themselves out week over week and just inherent truths in the market. But then there's a lot of other things that are just like, well, let's see what it does this week, right? And that's just the way it is. That's the way the market is. Let's talk South County super quick, and then we'll be done. Active listings here are down in South County. Again, no surprise, no shocker here. And pendings are way up. And so if you're in South County and you're thinking about putting your home on the market, you should really be considering putting it on in the next 30 to 45 days. And if you have any doubts or any insecurities about that, you should go back and watch the last couple of Silicon Valley snapshots that I've made, because those are right in line with what we're seeing here. You know, increased demand plus lack of supply right now. It's all good for you. It's all good for you if you're a home seller in South County. And look, guys, I appreciate you watching these videos. I know that some of this data, it may go over your head, it may not. You guys are smart, right? And the reality is that there's a motorcycle out there. The reality is that when you look at this data and you really internalize it, what you realize is that there are so many nuances to what is going on that on any given week the story can change. And so it's important to stay up to date and stay ahead of the curve. And that's why we make the Silicon Valley Snapshot. This is Danny Gould, everyone, with the Selling Silicon Valley Group, and we'll catch all of you in the next video.